Hi Deck It Out DIYers, and welcome to your tiered tray of the month box. You can unpackage your box and lay out all of your pieces to ensure that you have all the parts. So for this one, you'll have a bunch of layers. You also have a picture in the pamphlet that we included in your box with all of the projects, so you can kind of see how they go together. And I try to wrap them with their parts. So I try to wrap these things together. You will have some blue tape, blue painter's tape. You'll want to hold on to that for when we paint the little pieces. Okay. And just kind of lay it out. Make sure you have all the pieces. If you don't, let us know right away. Okay, to get started, I want you to think about what colors you are painting where. And then I will go through a few painting techniques with a couple of the projects, and then we'll paint and then we will assemble. For this project, it's just a Subway styled sign. I want to do an ombre background with a solid top. So for my ombre background, I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to get my sponge, and I'm going to start with my red at the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up from red to orange to yellow. And the key to doing this ombre sort of technique is keeping your paint wet. Okay, so you're seeing that I'm not dabbing extra paint off like I would normally do when I'm dabbing or painting these other pieces. And that's because I want a lot of paint to keep it wet while I'm moving up the board. Another thing you may notice is that I'm brushing off the side because these are cut on the laser, so there's a nice clean black burnt edge that I don't really want to get paint on. You can certainly paint it if you want. I just would prefer not to, so I'm pulling my paint off the edge instead of trying to get paint on the edge. Okay, so from the red, I will go to the orange. I'm gonna go a little bit above where that the red is and get my paint brush stroke down before I move in and blend over the top. So you'll notice I'm kind of just moving back and forth, trying to make those two kind of blend nicely with each other. Now, the plus to this is that we're going to put a bunch of letters over the top. So it's okay if it kind of looks a little bit blotchy, because you will not notice that when we put the letters over the top of it. Okay, I'm doing one more coat of paint here just so that it is wet still. And then I'm gonna move into my yellow. And I'm gonna do the yellow across the top here. Get a good solid yellow coat in. Grabbed a little bit of extra paint there. And then I'm gonna come down and blend a little bit with the orange. Okay, and you'll see I pulled up some of the orange with me, so I'm just gonna do a little bit more yellow, make it a little bit more solid, and then come back in until I'm happy with how the blending looks. Okay, so I'm kind of going for like the sunset look a little bit. Now this is gonna go over the top, and to paint these cutouts, grab your sponge. This is where you're gonna want not a lot of paint. So this is way too much paint. You're gonna load your sponge, dab it off, and then gently dab on all of the pieces. These are really thin letters, so you wanna be careful because they are fragile. Okay, so simply dab, and you'll take some time to do this because you don't want too much paint. If you have too much paint, it will drip down the edges. And once it's dry, you can go back for your second coat of white if you chose white, or second coat of paint. Okay, I finished painting that project, so I set it aside. When you're painting projects that have an engraved design on them, you want to be very careful to not put too much paint on your sponge. So very light coats, and you'll have to have some patience with this because I don't want to go back and do any more painting on here until that is dry, because I don't want to cover up the pretty leaf design. Okay, so I wanna make sure I do very light coats. Now this everything right there is going to be covered up by our letters, a cutout letter, and then this big space right here is going to have this nice large pumpkin in there. So the white is gonna show through for the pumpkin spice. Now, if you get too much paint in the engraved design, you can take an X-Acto knife or something similar and just kind of pull the paint out. And then I always go back, see how I'm kind of making a mess of the side here? I always go back with my sponge over and just touch up if I've made some extra paint where I don't want it. And then I just touch up those parts and I'm good to go. Okay, so you're going to paint your base coat of any of these projects that have the engraving on them. With the dabby method, less is more, of course. The same thing for this pumpkin or any of these cutout pieces that are larger. Just take your sponge, add the paint, and dab it. Again, you want to dab so you don't have paint dripping through the letters or the cracks in the design. And then when you get to smaller words like this, like pumpkin patch, the word farm, the small leaves on the sweater weather design, grab your tape, place down your letter or your small parts, and then take your paint, whatever paint color it might be, dab it, and then dab like this. And do you see how I'm holding on to the tape? So this is a nice little trick to help you not have to hold down all those little pieces. You can just stick it to the tape and it will hold it down for you. Okay, so I believe now you should be ready to go painting all your parts. Remember your blue tape to tape down your pieces to hold them together. Remember, less is more, so very light coats on all of your engraved pieces and you should be all set. Okay, so now we're at the gluing stage. Everything is painted, and now you're just going to take your glue and you're gonna glue everything together. This is super glue. It will glue your fingers together if you get glue on them. So just be very careful and mindful of where you're putting the glue when you're using it. For this one, you'll just wanna make sure that you kind of fit it on there how you like it. I'm trying to fit it so I can still see the patterns that are the designs that are etched into the board. And then I'm just putting a little bit of paint here and there on the word everything, because this is a great glue. And then you'll just line it up with the words on the board. You're just gonna cover up those words, okay? As you assemble your projects, you're just gonna keep doing the same thing. For projects like this, I like to just go around the edge and then do some pieces in some letters in the middle of this, just to kind of get some spots down. But you do not have to worry about getting everything, even if you just did these lines. I'm sure that would be it would hold just fine because you're not playing with this. This is your decor. And you can see I'm not putting globs of glue on, just putting a little bit on. You will have base pieces in your kit as well. Just make sure you line these up. And the base piece that you're gonna look for to assemble will be this rectangle and the little piece. So you'll take those out, okay, and you're gonna glue them together. I do not paint mine because I can use these then for other tray kits if I want other pieces. You are welcome to glue to paint them. This is going to be the base for your standing sign right here. Okay, so once it's glued, once it's glued down, your base will stand in here, and then your sign will stand. Okay, so you'll want to glue that together, and then you can glue all your arrows on. All right, so there you have it. These are all the pieces that we have made for our tiered tray. So you have your banner of pumpkins, farm fresh pumpkins, pumpkin patch, sweater weather. You have the sign, and then it does have the base. I just had the base. The base to put it in, to stick it in. You have the Subway tile sign, and then you have the pumpkin spice everything. So there is the one base for this piece. Oops, it's right here. Okay, and that will sit like this, and then it will stand next to your tray or in your tray, however you do it. You also will have this one that's called, well, I call it a kickstand. I've heard other makers call it a kickstand. So you'll glue this piece to one of your signs that you want to have stand, glue it like this, okay? Then you'll take your 1/4 of a square and stick it in, and then it will stand, okay? So this is one of the holders, and then the other one is like a plate stand. You'll just slide the two pieces together. This type of stand works well for any of these. So slide this together, and then whichever sign you want to sit in there, and it will just sit like a cake stand. So you have a few of these from previous months. If you've been with Deck It Out, the Tier Tray of the Month Club, you'll have a few of these, so you can use them for other ones, or you just prop them up and lean them up against different items on your tray. Thanks for joining me this month for our Deck It Out DIYer subscription box for our tiered tray. We can't wait to see how you create your tiered tray, so be sure to check us out and join our Facebook group, Deck It Out DIYers, and we look forward to seeing you in the group soon.